guys, so day 2 of the tutorial. No, not tutorials. Day 2 of the vlog. Yeah, the vlog. Okay. So day 2 of the vlog. Okay, so yesterday was the first entry, and I'm being really good about making sure that I get 2 days worth in. Okay, so last night after I was doing video editing and all that, I was trying to figure out what to do today. What I absolutely did not want to do is sit around the house all day today and not get anything done. I finally have the liberty of not having to be tied to Sheboygan because of this restaurant. And it's not to say that I don't enjoy working, but I like having my own life too. So, today's adventures will involve us going out to the Dells, which is a 2-hour drive away. I have an itching to listen to a little bit of Leonard Skinner. So I got a feeling there's going to be a little Sweet Home Alabama on the way out there. But I figured I'd make today's vlog entry about choosing shows. And that is because I'm looking at trying to figure out before the end of the year. I want to do at least one show and take you guys along. And there is a website for Wisconsin, and I've seen one that kind of covered the tri-state area, so it covered Wisconsin, Minnesota, and Illinois as far as art and craft shows. The one that's for Wisconsin kind of gives a category listing for all of their shows. It comes up kind of like this. Alright. And the acceptable work codes, so that you know whether or not that you would want to, or that you are, if your work would be accepted into some of these shows. Now, some of these shows will literally take anything. It used to be something that, something that's really infamous is like Strawberry Fest or Cedarburg's Wine and Harvest Festival, and that literally shuts the main drag in Cedarburg, Wisconsin, down for, I think it's something like 10 or 12 blocks. There's thousands of people that attend this. There's hundreds of vendors. And it used to be like the thing to do if you were either an established artist or an emerging artist. That's where you had to go. Okay? Now you have to balance out your booth fees, the accommodations that they're going to give you, and how much gate you have. So those 3 factors are a really big thing that I would advise that people take into consideration when they're thinking about whether or not they want to do a show. Now, what I typically vend when I'm doing my art at an event is I'm doing original paintings. I'm looking for commissions. I have prints for my photography. And my price point that I have learned over the years has got to be open enough to go anywhere between $3 and $4 and all the way up to several $100s, okay? Because you want to be able to take the little things and carry them out. In saying that, how do I want to say this? You want to make sure that what you're vending isn't in conflict with what your neighbor's probably selling, okay? And I say this because I went to, the last show that I went to was actually over at South High, which is right around the corner from where I live. And I scouted out the show. There were some people selling like homemade jellies and jams, and that's really, really cool. But I'm totally for the whole, making stuff at home and coming in and making a little bit of extra money on it. But I have to kind of scold myself for not being very thorough in looking at the stuff that I did not want to be put next to. And in that way, shape, and form, as a person who makes handmade items, all the stuff that I do is handmade. The closest thing to something that's manufactured would be a print, but still that is edited, it takes time, it's legwork. It's not like I went out, bought a mass amount of it, and then decided to divvy it up into small items and then sell it out. When I actually went to vend that show, I was placed next to a woman who was selling Tupperware, which really draws down the value of your retail space in a show. Maybe people are overthinking it, especially like show coordinators, but when you are looking at selling original artwork that is $200, $300, $400, $500, and you're sitting next to somebody who is selling $25 worth of Tupperware, that's two totally different audiences. That's not even in the same category of items that you would want to be next to each other. That's housewares and decor. It just doesn't work. And it makes the people who want to go there, it gives them a very kind of confused. I mean, you wouldn't go to Walmart if it wasn't organized. And it would make more sense if some of these people who are vending and sending up the vendors would organize it by category of what they're selling. So put all the country crafts together, put all the jewelers together, so that they kind of have an idea. But typically, when people are coordinating these shows, they mix everything up. So you may be, when you have something like Strawberry Fest that's out in Cedarburg, or the Wine and Harvest Fest, or some of these festivals that are listed in this directory, you want to pay attention to what they're accepting in for work. What you do may not mesh with what your neighbor does. So do take note of what the people who are coordinating the show, make sure you know what they're accepting, okay? And then come up with a standard, okay? Don't lower yourself down because the person next to you is selling work for a lower price point that is mass-produced, because that's what they do. I mean, everybody's got their own thing, and I get that. But if you're making handmade stuff, you're charging upwards of $10, $15 for, and they're selling $3 mass-produced rings that were made in China, you're not going to want to be next to that. Because you're not going to... There's a certain group of people that you're looking for, and they're not necessarily going to be the same thing that the person next to you is looking for. So you kind of want to have a good marriage of what you're selling versus what your neighbor's selling. When I'm looking for a show, what I'm looking to avoid is imported or other items. If you can buy effectively, if I'm going through a show and I can find vendors that are selling stuff that I can buy at Walmart, so Mary Kay products, Tupperware, gutters. I have actually seen people selling lawn maintenance services, okay? Stuff like that. I don't want to be next to that, because it's so all over the board. If somebody's at a craft show and they're buying gutters, I question the validity of whether or not that gutter guy is really an established gutter guy, because nobody goes to a art and craft show going, you know what I'd like to do today? Honey, we should go look for gutters. We really need new gutters on the house. Oh, let's go talk to this guy. Maybe at a home improvement bazaar or a home improvement trade show, but you don't go to an art and craft show to get new gutters or new siding or new windows, or you don't go to an art and craft show to buy Tupperware. I mean, it might be a convenience, but I seriously would question the validity of the person who is selling that item. Okay, so it kind of lessens the integrity of the people who are running the show if you're selling stuff that you can buy at Walmart or something you would want to go through the yellow pages for. Okay. Manufacturer resale items. Please see page 1. If I can go to a directory on the internet and buy a bunch of mass-produced $3 rings that are various sizes and then sell them at a craft show, the person who may be next to me who's making handcrafted jewelry, whose price point starts at $25, and has spent hours and hours on handcrafted jewelry, is not going to appreciate me with my $3 knockoff, nickel-plated, die-cast crap being right next to them. It lowers their resale value of their items, okay? So as a person who's doing handcraft items, as far as handmade jewelry, stay away from people and stay away from shows that are okay with the person who may be selling stuff made in China at a really, really low price point. Now, that is not to knock local industrial people. When I went up and I went to South High, there was a woman there who was selling wool socks and wool hats and wool scarves. Turns out that that's actually a company that's in Sheboygan, and they actually don't have a resale outlet. Now, they set their stuff up very, very small. They didn't have a big whole huge thing. She was very well informed, she was very impolite, and the setup looked very professional, and her price point was under $30. So, I didn't have really a bone to pick with something like that, but if you have stacks and stacks of Tupperware, A and B don't make C. And when you're talking something like a local company, I believe that company was like Wigwam, and they just have a factory in town here. It's not a big national outlet, like you're not going to see these things sold in California. That falls much more into the handmade clothing, okay? And I'm okay with that. Is it my shtick? Am I going to have a problem with it? Not as much as I would if it was something I could buy at Walmart. If I can buy it at Walmart, I really don't want to be next to it because I don't want to compete with a mass-produced, lower price point thing that means absolutely nothing. But this woman could tell me the names of the llamas that they got the wool from and where they have their farms. I mean, if you're getting that much into your manufacturing, you probably aren't mass-producing it. So, I mean, there's a thought, okay? Just make sure that when you're doing your shows that you can actually connect with your audience, okay? So the other thing that's I wanted to talk to you about when it comes to vending shows or vending at galleries is see the facilities that they're providing you. Okay, so you as a vendor and as a salesperson are going to need certain things, okay? And if you've never done this, you're not going to know to look for it. Look to see if the show is inside or outside, okay? If it's inside, make sure that if you need power, you have power. If you need running water or electricity, temperature control things, if they have those facilities. If it's a multiple day show, can you break for lunch and leave your booth? Can somebody come over and babysit your booth while you go have lunch? Because some places don't allow you to have lunch in your booth because it's kind of tacky. If it's outside, if you have to bring a tent. And think about that too. Vending outside is really, really hard. You have all of the elements that you have to deal with, so you might not have electricity. You may be in a tent. If you're in a tent, does it have walls? If it doesn't have walls, is it going to rain? There's all the elements that you don't think about because you're in the studio all the time with your stuff, that when you take your stuff to an outside show, you have to deal with rain, sun, wind, dust, dirt, leaves, bugs, and that's if it's a one-day show. You can pack up at the end of the day. At the end of the day, if it's a multiple-day show, you take all your stuff home. Is your stuff secured? Is it within a secured grounds? Are you allowed to camp there overnight and keep an eye on your stuff? So all of these factors go into whether or not you decide you want to do a show. Okay, and that's just stuff that's on the website. You're talking what they're looking for in their vendors and what you should look for as a vendor in their shows. The other thing I would really advise that people do when they're looking at shows, and we'll get into this in an actual tutorial, is walk the shows. So like Cedarburg's got their Wine and Harvest Festival, and that's 180 degrees difference from West Bend's. They have an art fair too. So the Wine and Harvest Festival takes up 10 blocks of the main drag down in Cedarburg. It's really widely renowned without the state. And 10, 20 years ago, it was a huge thing because all you had there were artisans and jewelers and people who made handcrafted things. Today, not so much. And maybe because artisans and jewelers, it becomes very expensive. Doing the Art and Wine Festival to vend outside for 2 days is something close to, I think, $225, I believe, last time I checked. But the last time I've gone to one of these, I saw like one of the local dealerships selling cars up there. I saw people selling insurance up there. And that is so far detracted from the core idea of what the Wine and Harvest Festival is about that why would I want to vend there? They boast a gate of 10,000 people. Okay, fine. So you can get your artwork out there. Hooray for exposure! People are going to die of exposure. Seriously, if you think exposure is all that great, you're going to die of it. You pay $225 to get your work out there and have it be seen. By who? A lot of these people go to these festivals just to have a good time. Not all of them are buying. There are bands that are there, there's vendors selling food there. There are so many distractions that you as a vendor have to compete with. And yes, it's a free festival, so you get people that maybe they can't afford your stuff. So if you're looking at doing a really big walk-on free festival, maybe it's, you know, the Lakefront Festival of the Arts, it's the Wine and Harvest Festival, it's some fall fest out in the Dells, it's some fall fest out in Green Bay. If people can walk right on, there's a couple of factors you have to take into account. They're going to give you a generalized head count. Okay, that head count could be 500, it could be 10,000. They really don't have a way, if it's multiple blocks or if it's in a park, they really don't have a way, unless they segregate it off with fences, of doing an actual head count. Now, out of that head count, maybe 20% is going to actually be shopping. The rest of them are there for a good time. So, out of 1,000, 20%. So, 2,000 people. Or 200 people out of 1,000. Let's go smaller numbers. 2,000, or 200 people out of 1,000 are actually going to buy. Out of that 200, watch what people are actually buying. If they're parked far away from their car, chances are they're not going to want to take that 24 by 36 painting and haul it all the way back to their car, especially if they're spending hundreds of dollars on this original painting. So scout these shows out before you actually commit to a contract of vending there. And that's the other thing, is typically when you wind up vending at these shows, you have to sign into a contract where you are bound to be there for X amount of hours. Perhaps you have to set up the day before, and you have to be set up and ready to go and be open by 9 a.m. And you have to be there from 9 a.m. to 5 a.m. and you have to be there with no breaks. Next day you have to be there 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. Teardown has to be done and in and out in an hour. So feasibly, can you get all of your crap in and out and loaded onto your vehicle and gone inside of an hour? There's some semantics that has to go on with vending, so it can become very, very complicated very, very quickly. When we actually do the tutorial on doing vending, or if I do an episode on scouting out a show, which I want to do this because I haven't hit a whole lot of artists that know what to look for when they're scouting out a show. So that's on my list for our little blog thing going on. But today is open. Da-da-da! I'm going to go to the Dells. I'm going to see if I can't go horseback riding today, because horseback riding is a lot of fun. There's Timbavati, so there's the potential I can get some wildlife photography done. I'm going to go hiking out in Devil's Lake. Haven't done the Dells in the fall, so it's sweatshirt time, and hopefully it won't be too cold. I'll have to probably wear a lot of layers. I think if I wind up doing anything, I will have to get back to you right now. Time to get in the car and get out there, because it's a 2-hour drive. Check you later.